Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm Jason Rapoli, CFO and Marketing Director, and along with my wife Kristen Rapoli, we are Rapoli Real Estate. So if you're looking to buy, sell, or relocate from a different part of the country, go ahead and give us a call. Our information is down below, and we would love to assist you in making Charlotte your next home. In today's episode of Myth Busting Mondays, we're going to compare renting versus buying and see which one is the clear winner. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So a lot of people are thinking about renting, especially nowadays, since it's a little bit harder with the elevated housing prices and not to mention the elevated interest rates as well. However, renting now could cost you thousands of dollars in the long run. Let's go ahead and break it down. For years, renting has been marked as safe, simple, and affordable, with no maintenance, little responsibility, and no big upfront costs. But here's the part that nobody's telling you. Renting has zero return on investment. Renting also has built-in annual rate hikes. So year over year, your landlord or whoever owns the property that you're renting can increase your rates whenever they want or by however much they would like to. And renting builds your landlord's equity, not yours. So in this episode, we're going to compare real numbers in the Charlotte area to see how much it would cost you to rent versus buying. So let's look at a scenario here with the average in the Charlotte metro area. Renting is about $2,400, depending on where you're looking, for the first year of renting. Buying is slightly elevated at $2,600 to $2,800, depending on what kind of house you're looking at. So you will be paying more, of course, that first year. And let's go ahead and say that you are buying a $400,000 home with 5% down, which don't forget isn't needed. If you haven't seen that before, check out my other video about down payments in the myth busting series. But with 5% down, that's around $20,000. And with interest rates about 6.75%, they're a little bit lower now and continuing to drop. And plus taxes and insurance, your estimated payment might land you around $2,600 to $2,800 in the graphic shown here. At first glance, someone might say, see, renting is cheaper. But here's what renters forget. Your mortgage payment doesn't go up every year. Your rent does. Another argument is that they also fix every issue in the house. And while that is true, they will come out and fix it. Sometimes the people they hire aren't always the best. I have rented in the past. I've gotten good people that they've hired, sometimes not. Sometimes they show up or they show up late. It's a very weird circumstance because you're not handling it. You're literally in the middle just waiting to be told what to do. Also, if you're renting, you don't get many upgrades. When you're living in a rental or an apartment, they don't upgrade your kitchen, your bathroom, your cabinets. You get nothing like that updated. And plus, when they're trying to fix like a fridge or a dishwasher, they will send people out many times, because I've experienced this, to try and fix the problem, even though that's something that they cannot fix. It's just a band-aid and you would like them to replace it. They typically don't do that because it costs them money in the long run and they don't really want to put out that extra money. Here's just one more image after 5 years where your rent could increase up to 25%, depending on your landlord and your situation. But also it shows that your payment stays roughly the same. And if those interest rates continue to drop, you can refinance and even get a cheaper payment going forward. Let's dive into that rate hike a little bit more here. In Charlotte, it typically goes up about 5 to 8% with renters. And sometimes that can be higher or maybe a little bit lower, but roughly it's around 5 to 8%. So if you're paying about $2,400 now for your rent, in 1 year, it would be closer to $2,500. In 2 years, it might be closer to $2,700. 3 years down the road, closer to $2,800. And in 4 years, you're closer to $3,000. Meanwhile, as a homeowner, your fixed rate stays the same, and you're also paying down the debt on that house, which means you own more of that house. So you can actually fix it up and sell it for more money down the road, because typically, even in a down year, home prices rise about 1 to 2% every year instead of you losing about 4 to 6% a year. So either you're playing a game where prices continuously go up, or where you can manage it, keeping it the same or even lowering it if you were able to refinance. Here's just another graph showing you exactly what would happen over time. When you pay rent, 100% of your money goes to someone else and you're just paying them to live there and to fix whatever breaks when you're in that house. When you pay your mortgage, a chunk goes to your principal. So like I said, it lowers it and you gain more of that property over time. So let's go over one more thing, appreciation over time. Charlotte's appreciation over the last decade is about 4 to 7% a year. So let's go ahead and take the low end on that. And you bought a $400,000 home appreciating at about 4% per year. Year one is about $16,000. Year two is closer to $17,000, all the way up to year five, which is close to $19,000. That's $85,000 over 5 years for just owning the home and paying the mortgage down that you're living in. And if you're renting over that same period, you don't own anything and your rent has gone up over those last 5 years. So if you think about it, you're actually losing money when you're renting versus buying. Okay, let's zoom out for 5 years comparing renting versus buying. If you rent, you paid someone between $140,000 and $160,000. You don't own anything, your rent is higher than when you started, and you miss building equity in your future home for you and your family. Now let's flip it over to if you bought. You paid roughly the same to start versus the renter. However, over time, you're now paying less, and you could pay even less if interest rates drop and you were able to refinance. So in the long run, you're paying less over time. You gained $30,000 to $45,000 in principal. You gained over $80,000 in appreciation. And now you own an asset compared to renting where you don't own anything and you're just paying somewhere to live. So is renting really cheaper? In the short term, renting is cheaper than buying at first, but over time, it is not as cost effective than it would be to buying a home. In the long term, it's not even close. It makes more financial sense to buy a home rather than renting for long term because you will own an asset down the road rather than paying for someone else to own that same asset. Now, I do want to go over some perks and some situations that would actually work for renting. Number one would be if you just moved to a new area and you're trying to get the lay of the land. You're not quite sure what schools are good. You're not sure what areas are good, what neighborhoods you like. So if you're moving to a new area and you don't know anyone or anything there, it might be good to rent for the first year just to figure out where it would be a good fit for you and your family. Number two would be job stability. If you're not quite sure what your job is going to be in the future, if they're downsizing or changing management, whatever have you, it might be smart to rent so that way you have the flexibility of getting out of that in 1 year or even earlier. Another one might be repairing credit. If you're renting for a short term, 1-2 years, and building your credit over time, renting can help solidify that credit score so when you're ready to buy, you're in a stronger position to get a better interest rate. And the last one is saving for a down payment. Because like I said, renting at first is a little bit cheaper than buying, and you do need some kind of down payment, and it also helps to have a bigger down payment so you can minimize your initial house payment. Renting is good in small doses or if you fall into one of those categories. But in the long term, nothing can beat owning a house. So what do you think, everybody? Did we bust that myth? Renting is not cheaper than buying. It is more expensive in the long term. You are building someone else's wealth while you're renting, and it keeps you on a treadmill instead of a path. If you would like us to run numbers for you and your family to see if it makes sense to either move to Charlotte, North Carolina, rent here, or buy here, just give us a call. Our number and information is right down there below, and we would love to help you make your move or relocate here in the Charlotte area. All right, and once again, I'm Jason Rapoli. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if this video brought you value, and I can't wait to see you on the next Myth Busting Mondays. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.